Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
To Monday.
Yes, it is. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Tom. How are you?
Doing extremely well for a Monday morning, given I got a lot of sun, as people can probably tell, and you don't have a whole lot of hair. It's not a good thing on the weekend. So,
forgot the old hat, huh?
I actually had it with me. I just, it was overcast. One of those days, it's overcast, and I need to learn and grow from understanding that even if it's cloudy, the sun can still get you. So I'm dealing with that today. But other than that, I'm doing awesome. So good morning, everyone. As you can tell, that's Bob. I'm Tom, and this is today's Antidote, our daily broadcast where we try to provide that one thing. We have a topic for the week, and we'll have a discussion around that, and we hope that you will share your thoughts and ideas as we go through the conversation about the topic. This week, it's about growth. And then at the end, Bob and I will share our one thing. And we hope that that will help you figure out how to take your next steps. And we know that what we say will impact some people today, tomorrow, maybe later. And what you share, if you want to share your one thing, will also help people as they try to figure out their own unique pathway to success. So before we dive into the topic of growth, one of the ways that people can grow is by participating in some of our upcoming events in May. Bob, I know how much you love talking about this. You get so excited to share our upcoming events.
I'll try to do it. I'll do it down style this time. Go ahead. I can do it.
Would you expect that I have a graphic?
I was hoping.
Of course I have a graphic.
Hey, people. This is Bob. Sometimes I get really excited about the events, but today I'm going to be mellow. It's Mellow Monday, and you can see those dates. The big one to me is that Ring of Renegades check-in and check-up. It's a time for you to get in touch with where you are with the week, to really feel the feels, to really think about where you've been and where you're going, and to get help and support. It's a great opportunity for you to grow with your fellow entrepreneurs and meet other people. Now, I could talk all day about the Ring of Renegade Roundup networking events, but I'm not going to. Just mark your calendar for May 11th and May 27th. And in the meantime, get ready for Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Back to you, Tom.
All right, we need a vote from our listeners. I have a feeling, remember we had a conversation last week about how you watch the number of viewers, and when they go down, you used to get a complex. I wasn't watching. Well, they're going up, so maybe people liked the Mellow Bob. I'd love to hear in the comments. Did you prefer Mellow Bob or unbelievably excited about our events, Bob? I think that's
and someone identified who I was channeling. It's a great inside joke. So someone was tracking with me. I was literally trying to be a certain person, and this person identified it. So
but clearly you must have succeeded in that.
That's it. There you go. So I do impressions. I don't know if you know that, Tom.
I didn't know that.
There's an Ethel Merman. There's no business like show business.
Where's the mute button? Can I stop? Anyhow, I hope you will take advantage of those dates. Mark them down on your calendars. In the next day or so, there will be event pages up inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. So please feel free to go and gather more information. Mark your calendars, and we hope to see you on those dates for some great upcoming events. Now, let's get away from impressions. And let's dive into our topic for the day, which is growth. And we'll talk a little bit about what it is. Because I have a feeling that we might have interesting thoughts about growth and what that looks like. So I'd love to hear your take on it first.
Whoa, I'm just looking at the comments. There's a lot going on. That's great for Monday morning. Growth is critical. there's the old saying that if your business isn't growing, it's dying. And I think that's really true. And growth doesn't have to mean that you're constantly doubling your revenue for the year, that you're constantly adding employees or adding clients. It means you're innovating. It means you're trying new things so that you can adapt to an ever-changing business climate. There is no business that is the same today as it was yesterday or 6 weeks ago. I was out playing golf yesterday with an insurance broker, and he was talking about all the sexual harassment and employee issues these days that companies are facing. That's a real thing that 20, 30 years ago, that stuff didn't come up as much as it comes up now. We've got to be aware of things like that. We need to be aware of the digital footprint of our companies. If you're a company and you're not thinking about where's my data, how is that data being secured? How am I protecting it from being picked up by someone just hacking in? You're really putting yourself in a bad position. And I can tell you, 20, 25 years ago, that wasn't a concern for companies. They weren't thinking about computers and where their data was being stored because it wasn't being stored on computers. They were worried about file cabinets and how to secure a file cabinet. And if a flood or a fire came through the office, how could you protect your records in that way? So it's constantly changing, and we have to accept that. So to me, growth is just looking at your business each day, each week, and saying, what do I need to do to put myself in the best position going forward?
Yes, because in reality, actually, it's what's real, right?
Right.
Growth is being willing to say that what is real today is different than what was real yesterday or 3 months ago or 6 months ago. And we can choose to live in the 3, 6 months, 8 months ago, or we can decide that we are going to move forward and that what is real for us is going to always be changing. And so growth is how do we stay connected to what is real and understand, like, how does that move us forward? I think it's interesting that, growth, some organizations may not have seen dollar growth. They may have seen other types of growth within their business over this last year. Things that they weren't really thinking about and were there. It's interesting. People talk a lot about mental health and where we are as a society with mental health and work and all the challenges that we're facing. And it's interesting because I think those things have always been there. There have always been challenges about commuting, challenges about what to do with family, how to balance personal, professional. Those things have always been a part of it. It has just never been brought to light the way I don't think that it has today for a larger audience. I can guarantee you that, 2 years ago, people were dealing with some of the exact same challenges individually and figuring out how to move forward. So I think that growth can be that we understand more about our business, about how we engage with our clients and our customers. And it might not change the bottom line dollar sign or our, gross revenues or net revenues. And it still can be considered growth.
Look at all the companies dealing right now with how to bring their employees back to work safely. Is it a hybrid approach where some days you work at home, some days you work at office? Is it all at home and no more office? Or is it all back to the office? And do you require your employees to be vaccinated or not?
Right.
What safety protocols do you have to have in the office? Should they be wearing masks when they're walking around? Can you meet in the conference room? Can there be a coffee machine in the kitchen that everyone uses? There are some real issues here that if you were thinking, well, I'm just going to go back to my office the way it was a year ago and everything's going to be the same. I can tell you, I've been into my office 3 or 4 times in the last couple of weeks. It's different. People are keeping their distance. They're moving differently. It's not as crowded. It's just it's a climate that's not like it was, and that's growth. And I also think, as you talk about reality, we look at growth as doing better and being perfect, but I also think growth is trying things that don't work and learning from them. I think that's a big part of growth, and I think that's a big part of where, when I see companies that become static, that's where they fall apart. They don't try new things. They stick They stick to what they've done for the last 15 years and don't adapt, don't consider possibilities. And that puts them at a disadvantage because the distance between where they are here and where the world is here gets wider and wider. And it's really hard to catch up. If you've been a dinosaur for the last 10 years and you're the last people to put away the fax machine and use email, I can't even imagine what it would be like. And I will bet you there's someone out there today within 10 miles of you or me who still uses faxes and doesn't use email.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. And I think that's, or don't use a computer at all.
Right.
And I think that's part of the piece of it, is that you can look at growth in terms of revenue, but you can also look at it in terms of how does your company and organization evolve and change and stay up to date with everything that is happening and where they are. And the challenge is it's not the same for everyone. And I think that's a part of where sometimes organizations miss the boat, is they feel like that the way they've always done it is going to be the best way. And they aren't thinking about how are things changing and how can we adapt and adjust to that. And typically, if you are growing after others, you're behind, way behind, because by the time you catch up, they've already moved on to somebody else has moved on to something else. If you don't understand, like, what are the things that drive your customers, they are going to be frustrated and move on before you can catch up. And then now you're doubly behind because you're just getting to the point of where they were and they're already moved on to whoever the next potential business that they can move to. And that they can say, you know what, I'm not dealing with that. They are missing the boat in this area. I'm moving on. And by the time you catch up, they've moved on again.
We're getting some great comments in here, Tom. So let me go back and see if I can get to some of them. Dave says, excited Bob is better. Keep listeners engaged. Thanks. Or maybe I should say it this way. Excited Bob is better. Keep listeners engaged. Thanks. There you go. Just for you, Dave. Some examples of where we see, the old school approach, the post office, paper invoicing. I'm more and more, my clients are paying me over PayPal.
Sure.
And I pay a fee for that. I pay 2.9% plus 30 cents or some inconsequential amount. But I've had clients who I've said, hey, you should really give people a Venmo or PayPal option. And they go, no, I don't want to pay that fee. And it's like, I want to be convenient. If I say to a client, hey, do you get points when you put stuff on your credit card? And they say yes. I'm like, hey, you want to make some points when you pay me?
Right.
And they pay you a lot quicker. And the money's in the account the next morning. And you don't have to worry. Nothing's worse than waiting for the check in the mail. Oh,
I would agree.
Writing down notes. This is from John Hansen. I know his office. You do not see sticky notes. You do not see legal pads. You see no paper and pencil. It is all on computer, 100% in the cloud. So if you're one of his employees, you can access it from home. You can access it from the grocery store. It's right there on the cloud.
Yeah, I think that it's hard. It's because people are so used to their own ways. And growth in some regards is also about change. It's doing something differently, and that's hard. We've been talking about that probably for a month. This has been part of I would say, an underlying theme of many of our discussions and topics has been about change and what does that mean.
And I think the other part of growth is shifting from doing what's right for the company to doing what's right for the customer. And there's a big difference there. And a lot of companies that I've worked with, the growth comes when they start to realize, like, yeah, this policy doesn't work for the customer. It's great for us. It's beautiful. But if it doesn't work for your customer, ultimately, I'd say you're not going to grow because the customer is going to say, you're not working what I need. If you go to a restaurant now and you can't pay with a credit card, like I was at a cash only restaurant a couple weeks ago, that really threw me. I mean, I was scrambling to find the money. And they're like, well, there's no sign on the door that says credit card. And I'm thinking, come on. You think I'm looking at that? Is
Right.
it 1987?
Right. Do you accept a credit card?
I mean, and then it was one of these things where we just don't.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how many times have people chosen not to go there? Oh, I'd love to go there, but I don't have cash. And they're like, well, there's an ATM right outside. And it's like, yeah, that's not the way I want to operate. I'm used to, here's my credit card, have at it.
Well, and I think the next generation, they don't even have credit cards. It's
Right.
all done via like Venmo or it's Apple Pay.
Apple Pay, yep.
So that they don't have to carry around a card. They don't have to carry around cash.
Right.
They are going to carry around their phone. And so they make sure that they have that. And I think that's, it's part of it, is when you make some of these changes, like going paperless. Are you then continuing and carrying that growth through to how you hire people? Because if you're now going out and hiring people who have always done it through sticky notes or have always got their written down to-do list, that person's going to struggle to come in and have to completely, not only to have to get to know a new organization, they have to rewrite their whole processing of how they do work. And I think that's, we make changes, but I don't think we always sometimes think about what's the next implication of that. And so we make a minor shift in growth, which I'm sure we'll talk about as we go through the week, the challenges of growth. And so I think those are just things for people to consider is, if we're not going to have a credit card machine, if it's only cash, you better make sure people are well aware of that before they ever come anywhere close to stepping into your building, or you're going to have more challenges and issues than you could ever imagine. Doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. It just means that's the choice. How do you do a better job of communicating?
And are you willing to accept that choice if your customer isn't? Because the customer will vote with their time and money.
Sure.
And so you could have the best coffee in the world, but if you're only taking cash, you may lose a third to half your business on a Sunday morning because someone doesn't have cash. So they go to the restaurant across the street that has a big credit card sign, or every other restaurant that says, yeah, we'll be happy to take your credit card.
Yeah.
And conversely, you see more and more restaurants that are not doing cash at all. It's only credit cards.
Correct. Especially now.
Yeah.
People don't want to be transacting with bills that have been passed around.
I know this is John Hanson saying, Post-it notes are not allowed in my office. We are fully paper free. I've been there. That's true. He also said the transition for my staff was difficult, but just ripped the Band-Aid off. And then he added, you choose, climb the Swiss Alps or just stare at them from the ground. However, you'll never have the glory of the view from the top. And that, that's something John and I were talking about over the weekend. Do you want to take on these challenges or not? It's your choice. You as an owner, you as a business leader, if you don't want to tackle a staff problem, if you have chronic lateness in your office, and you don't want to tackle it, that's your choice. But is that helping you grow, or is that slowing your growth or curtailing completely your growth?
Yeah, I think that's, those are the things you have to figure out. And I think once you make, one of the interesting things I think about growth is, again, not the results. What are you learning from it? And now that you've made this growth, what's the next growth that you almost have to take on? Somebody talks about ripping off the Band-Aid with decisions, which is great. It's a great way to do it. Have you supported your staff to do that? Or the next time somebody, puts up a Post-it note, they, get written up or they get in trouble or whatever. How are we not just doing things that make sense for growth, but supporting the people who now have to deal with the growth that is going on? And I think sometimes that's the missing piece, is that people don't consider all of the implications of the growth that they have chosen. And so you miss out on opportunities that might be beneficial or make it a lot easier for that transition to happen.
Indeed. So, Tom, we're at that point. Your favorite point, my favorite point. What's your today's antidote? That one thing we can think about, reflect on, or consider changing so that we can be moving into the day, the week, the month, the year, the decade better than we've ever been. See, apparently that enthusiasm has to let itself out somewhere in this half hour.
Okay. I'm good with that. There's nothing wrong.
Okay.
I think that my one thing, I started when I was thinking about this and we were starting having this discussion, the idea that growth is really about understanding that what's real changes all the time and that we have to find ways to adapt to it so that every day there is growth happening, whether we realize it or not. It's just what is real for us because something has influenced our knowledge, experience, and perspective. And because of that, if we understand it and we take the time to try to figure it out, that then becomes growth. When we don't, and we just stay with and think that what is real for us is never changing, it's going to be really hard to have growth.
I'm going to go a little different. I'm going to suggest that growth isn't always about increased revenue or more customers or all that. Growth could be being able to leave work at 3:00.
Sure.
Every day. Growth could be taking off Friday. Growth could be, having a long-term employee work part-time instead of retiring. Growth could be you have two employees that are at odds with each other and you find a way to make them both fall back into place. Those are all signs of growth. And I think often we think of growth as, I grew by 20% last year. Some of the hardest growth and some of the best growth for a company is really simple stuff. Improving invoices so you have fewer lost accounts. There are so many little things that we don't think of as growth that, to me, if we focus on those things incrementally, they lead to the big revenue gains. When you look at companies that really grow fast, they rarely go out and take on the world. They really look more inside. Go, hey, we're really good at this. Let's focus here. We're really good at this. Or we need to figure this thing out because no one's figured it out yet. So I would say growth doesn't have to be that bottom line always.
I would agree 100% with that.
I thought you'd like that.
So often we feel, part of that is, that you don't have to do it alone. I think that it's funny. I was having a conversation with a cousin of mine. This was personal growth, but I think it's similar that, she has a daughter that just had their second baby. So they have two little kids under 3 and they have the spouse travels a lot. And sometimes for longer periods. And so, I just said, hey, look, we live in the same town. If I can be helpful, I don't really know her daughter that well because we didn't grow up together. And yet I said, look, I'm here to help. And they said, well, they don't really like asking for help. And so that growth can just be like, hey, look, I don't have to do this by myself. And it's the same for our business. I think so often business owners are like, I have to do this. Growth can be kind of moving forward and saying, you know what, I don't have all the answers. And maybe there are other ways that I can find solutions that will help me move my business in a different direction that I just can't see because I'm too close to it. So I would agree, there's lots of growth that happens outside of your balance line or your budget.
Okay. Well, Tom, with that, we should probably wrap up this episode of today's Antidote. Would you like to bring us home or shall I?
I would be happy to do that. Thanks so much for joining us today and for all the comments and thoughts about growth that you have within your organizations. Please continue to share them. If you are listening later and want to add your one thing, that'd be great. If you are interested or you enjoy this conversation, this is the things that are happening inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group all the time. So if you're not yet a member, please feel free to join. Just go to Facebook, search for Ring of Renegades, and you can become a part of a growing community that is helping each other take their next step forward on their own unique pathway to success. It is a private group. All you have to do is tell us why you're a renegade, and then you can be a part of that growing community as well. And, one of the things, I'm going to throw you on a loop, Bob,
okay,
because I like to do that occasionally, keep you on your toes. So rather than ending with a video, I thought that maybe you want to share if you're struggling trying to figure out what growth is outside of your bottom line dollar, and you're not certain why some things aren't moving forward the way you want them to, and what is the summer going to look like? How are you going to make sure that you find ways to stay connected and engaged? You might want to consider our Find Your Way in 90 Days. So
Find
Bob,
your renegade way in 90 days.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification. So Bob, why don't you close us out with more information about that? We will see you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, or we will see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. for our next edition of today's Antidote. Thanks so much, everyone.
Are you stuck? Are you just not sure how to move forward? Are you sick of banging your head against the wall? It's your chance to take the Find Your Renegade Way in 90 Days program to take yourself forward, to really grow as a person, as a leader, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. This isn't some big deal thing where we're going to give you the perfect way to become a millionaire. What this will be is working with Tom and me in focus sessions, 15-minute calls, where we'll talk about the issue that's stopping you, slowing you down. We'll figure that one out, and then when you have the next issue, we'll work with you on that. If you're someone who doesn't know what to do today or tomorrow, or you just feel like it could be a whole lot easier, the Find Your Renegade Way in 90 Days program is perfect for you. We're getting ready to start the next 90 days, so you can join a group of people, a growing group of people that really want to take their business, their professional life to the next level. It can be easier than you think, and we're going to show you how in this program.